Hey guys, before we start the video, I wanted to go and tell you about the deck of cards I'm using. These are the Contraband set from Theory 11. I'm not endorsed by them, but I would say that they're probably some of the best cards I've handled around. They're definitely worth picking up. This set's particularly good. I'll leave a link in the description for the specific deck of cards if you guys are interested in picking up a set of your own. And you're probably going to see me use more Theory 11 cards in the future. They're just one of the staples that I use outside of normal bicycles. But today I wanted to teach you guys a little something about lifts. Now, lifts are a basic concept in Magic. They're one of the most important parts that you'll see. They're very basic and they're used in a huge majority of different card tricks for various purposes. Now, usually the concept behind a lift is almost always to make a card appear as if it is something that it is not. So, in certain instances, you can go ahead and you can take a lift and you can use it to transpose other cards, just like this. You can make it appear as if it's something that it's not, which is good. But it's novel at best, and it works better when used with something else. So, say for example, we wanted to take a card, and any card really in the deck, and we wanted to take it and we wanted to put it very fairly, very cleanly, somewhere in the middle of the deck, right? Just like that. Now, what you can do with a lift is you can take any card that you want, just like so. You can go and you can transpose it into another card. But, just like that, it can transform back. Let's learn it. So, lifts are very simple. They're not overly difficult, but they do take a little bit of skill to make look natural. Now, everyone is going to be different with your lift. Now, there's no specific way how to do this. Everyone has to feel it out on their own, but this is the way that I do it, and this is the way that it was taught to me, and I've seen a lot of other magicians do it. It's genuinely the good standard to think of when you're considering how to do a lift. So, to start, usually, you do your basic double lift. And a double lift is very simple. Coming from the side here, a double lift is, instead of taking the top card, in this instance, you're taking two cards, in this case, the second from the top card and the top card together. And you're making them look as if they're one card, but they're not. So, from this angle, and I can show that to you from this way, what that looks like is taking it from this side, you're going to be peeking up on the corner of the card, usually after getting a break, and the way I like to accomplish this is by riffling the deck ever so slightly, and this is a natural move that you'll see a lot of people do if they're just trying to make sure that the cards are in a good order. And in doing this, what I've done is I've actually got a break on the card, and what that does is it lets me have access to both these cards at the same time, instead of just having to grab it from the normal top deck flat position. This works well, but bear in mind that you do have some angles with it, and so you might have to angle yourself a little bit, and that you're angled to the front of the spectator, and they can't see this back window that's opened up. Now, you can always use a smaller break, but it makes it a little bit more difficult. There are two types of lifts that I usually prefer to do. I prefer to use the braked lift, which is what I just showed you, and the unbroken lift, which is just a standard lift that you grab, which is more advanced and is something that you just get a feel for as you get more experienced with cards. The unbroken lift is pretty basic. You just do a lift, but usually what it requires is enough skill and enough comfort with your cards that you understand how to quickly acquire it. Now, ultimately, the unbroken lift is usually the best option because it does look pretty much the most natural. It's not going to be called into question really ever. Most people say, oh, well, that's a card. But for the beginning, the broken lift is usually how to do it, or the braked lift is how to do it. So, to get that, it's very simple. You hold the hands in your dealer's grip like this, or in whatever grip you're comfortable with, mechanic grip, or whatever you feel like you need to be in order to acquire your lift. Everyone is different. And you riffle the cards from the back. That's all it is. And then while you're doing this motion, while you're doing this riffle like that, you stop just a little bit short, and you grab the two cards from the top. This will take a little bit of practice, but it's not overly intimidating, and it shouldn't be something you should be afraid of trying to learn, because it will help you in the future. Now, after you're at this position and you have this, all you do is you just get a little bit of the skin of your pinky or maybe the meat of your hand, and you stick that in between the cards, and you now have your break. And using this break, you can just grab any corner of the card or even the side of the card, and you can go and you can flip the card over. Now, a couple of ways that you can preserve this so that it's a little bit easier for you to reacquire it in order to flip it back over is you can do a break like I have right here, or you can skew the card like I've done. It's very simple. It's not going to be something that you should really have to think about. It should be something that you should get down to a muscle memory, and you should practice it out. That way you don't have to think about doing these moves, and you don't have to make these decisions while you're doing it. Flipping the card over should be nonchalant. It should be something that should just be a passing thing that's more of a formality than it is for the actual trick. No one should be calling this into question. Now, once you've done it and you've displayed your card, you can flip it over. And what they've seen is they've seen the second from the top, right? But what they've not seen is they've not seen your loaded card, which is going to be, in this case, it's going to be our 9 of spades. And the loaded card is important because that's everything that you're going to be using for this trick. Now, for the basic transposition, it works like this. And then after that, you can apply it into different moves, which I will teach later, and I will teach with more effects, but this should be the standard to go to if you want to learn how to do just a lift. The standard transposition works like this. You take any card, you display it as if it is the card that you're going to flip over and put on the table with using your double lift, and then you lay it back down. Sometimes give it a little bit of a riffle. Some people like that. I personally like to do that. It makes it a little more convincing, I think. And then you just either lay the card down on the table, or you do a little bit of a rub move, or maybe even, you give it a little bit of a spin or something like that. I prefer not to do that because it just makes a big mess of the system, and it's a lot easier to be simple with it because it lets you just be very calm, very clear, very direct with your actions, and make it that much more magical overall in the performance. And that's the double lift. It's very simple. Now on to other types of lifts. There is the triple lift, which is very similar to the double lift, except you're taking 3 cards as opposed to 2. And that's accomplished in, once again, the exact same way. The triple lift is very simple. You take a card, you display it, you lay it face down right there, just like that on top. Give it a rub or a blow or whatever the heck you want, and it transposes. But the difference with the triple lift is that with this, you are left clean on top. That way, you don't have to worry about someone saying, oh, well, you just used the second card, and well, now you've shown them the second card, and that's not the case. And most often, a lot of people will simply stop here. But what really they're looking for is right there, our third card, our culprit. And that's a good way to do it. Other things that you can do with a triple lift is you can load a card to someone by preparing certain effects. Say, for example, I had a card that was pre-signed on the top of the deck, and I did not want my spectator to see that. Something with my signature, perhaps, or something that you can estimate looks like a spectator's signature. Everyone's different. Usually this is done for like close friends or something like that. But say, back to the idea, say for example we had the signed card and we didn't want our spectator to see it. We could always simply do a double lift or a triple lift to prevent them from seeing that card. Give them the loaded card, and then if you had the card sandwiched between 2 cards that you were going to load, such as is done in an effect called the French Kiss, which I'll break down here for you guys quickly as an advanced tutorial for that. It would be to have the loaded card on top, a card that you are going to have them sign, and then it would be another duplicate of that card. So how it would boil down is you would go and you would usually have the loaded card with your signature on top, and you would have them select any card that they wanted. They would go, they would select that card, and in this case a Queen of Spades, and what you would do is you would then find a way to control that card to the top, and we will cover controls in another video. Just whatever you'd prefer, just control it so that it ends up second from the top, or the top, and then get it to be the second on the top. I usually prefer to just do a straight second from the top control, usually with a move called the Marlowe tilt. Once again, I will do a video on that, all of these terms, if you guys continue on with the channel. And then you just slide the card in very simply, very calmly. Go ahead and do that. Make the card transpose from the middle to the top of the deck, just like that, and then have them sign their card. They sign their card, and what we've just done is we've just done a double lift where we've got their card and we've got our loaded card underneath, and then after that we go give them our loaded card, do another double lift. In this case, take a card, our duplicate card of this one, which is the load, sign this card, and then flip it over, and then take our card right here, which is their card, and then you do the effect like that. And that's one application that you can use for double lifts in combination with other ideas. A couple other things that you could use it for, like I said, is you can use it for transpositions, you can use it for teleportations, you can use it for exchanges, trades. Pretty much any situation where you want a spectator to believe that a card is a different card. It's very thoroughly convincing, and it usually works as a wonderful utility device, as a sleight that not many people are going to pick up on unless they're already into Magic. One thing to be cautious of when you are doing lifts is you have to make sure that the cards line up. And one way that I use to accomplish this, outside of doing just straight pressure on the cards to prevent them from moving, is I slide the cards together along the side of the deck like this. And then doing this multiple times will eventually cause them to shift, that's true. But that's only because you're holding them for so long and you're applying so much pressure that they eventually just kind of start to just slide out. But by doing this very lightly and working together, you actually keep them pressed together. And even if there is a small window, a small little jog, just a quick tap on the outside, or just quickly squaring the cards together under your fingers will prevent this from being seen, which is always a good option. Find any method you can in the middle of your act to make it as easy for you and as good for your spectators. It's always supposed to look clean. It should be done very well. Even if it's supposed to look messy, make it clean. That's one of the biggest rules in card magic. If you have to end dirty, then do it, but find a way to get clean as quickly as possible. And by clean, we mean unable to be seen, unable to be found out in this instance. There should be no tell that you're doing something tricky. Now, going back to helping out to make your double lifts or your triple lifts or your lifts in general look better, you should be trying to make sure that the cards are squared together. It's usually a quick move, so nobody's ever really gonna question it. I could do that all day. It doesn't matter. But even if there's a little bit of a jog, that's why the edges of the cards are white. That's why we've got the white blank on it. If you do it quickly enough, there's very few times where people will notice if there's a slight issue. But one thing that people will notice, and this is something that you should pay attention to, is bows in the cards. They'll notice if another card is sticking out from underneath it because they can see the face. So one thing that we should always be careful of is doing this. This is never a good thing. Never bow the card when you're doing a double lift, because what you can have happen is this issue where you'll bow the card and then one card will fall out, or one card will bow less than another card, and then you have a peak and you can see what the other card is, and it's always aimed at your spectator, and that is never a good thing because it pretty much catches you out immediately. They're gonna know what's up and they're gonna go, oh, well, you flipped over 2 cards. Well, touche, you've got me. And you never want to be in that situation. Beyond that, lifts are, like I said, one of the most useful tools in Magic. It's something that I think every magician should know, and if you don't, you're pretty much in trouble. There's going to be a few issues with what you're doing. Beyond that, there's really not much to tell. Lifts are a basic tool that you can use to help you accomplish impossible looking things, and they're really only limited by your imagination. It's one of the wonderful things about magic that if you learn pieces of things and you learn certain techniques, you can make your own tricks. And I think that's definitely wonderful, and it should be something encouraged. So having said that, that is our cover of lifts on Magic Made Easy. I hope you guys learned a great deal. Feel free to leave a comment, drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more wonderful tips and tricks on how to become a better magician and how to get into magic in general. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and have yourselves a wonderful magical day.